This month, how a Kiwi pair are hell-bent on world domination.
We've certainly got lots more left in the tank. The level we're sailing at now is not what we're going to be in 6 months' time. We are going to hopefully get better and better.
And is a new race in the Caribbean a walk in the park wearing t-shirts and shorts, or a tough new offshore classic? Plus, racing around the Arabian Gulf. But first, how Cup teams are balancing the race for points on water against the arms race ashore. Six teams, 3 days, and one key regatta. Oman marked the beginning of the 2016 season for the America's Cup World Series. The first of 5 warm-up events this year for the America's Cup itself in 2017. But with points counting towards selection, there was plenty to race for. After 3 events in 2015, Emirates Team New Zealand went into the regatta with an overall lead. With 6 quick-fire races and some nail-biting moments for British supporters, Land Rover BAR won the Oman event.
It's great for us to win another Louis Vuitton World Series. Some of the existing teams, they have a history. We know how they perform. For us as a new team, it's important to be performing at the top of this America's Cup fleet. I think we're proving that we can do that.
With Oracle Team USA finishing second and Emirates Team New Zealand in third, the Kiwis' leading margin was being eroded.
To come away from any event still leading the World Series, we'll take that any day of the week.
But there is more at stake than just the racing. Behind the scenes, teams are also working on their development boats, stepping stones to the final machines that they will launch at the end of 2016. These development boats, commonly known as turbos or T-boats, may look the same, but they're very different from the identically matched AC-45s that race in the World Series. And they have stacks more power too. So as the clock counts down, there are 2 races at play: a points race on the water and an arms race ashore. One man who's played this balancing act many times before is Andy Claughton, the Chief Technology Officer at Land Rover BAR. For over 30 years, he's worked in the Cup world and is one of the world's leading technical experts in the racing scene.
I think the biggest change in the move to the new Cup is that you're probably manoeuvring, accelerating or decelerating for 20-25% of the race.
Until the Cup moved to catamarans, and when each race lasted 2 hours rather than 16 minutes, boats were at full speed for 95% of the time, albeit at speeds you could run past. Even for the pros, an AC-45F can deliver a hair-raising ride, but the turbos are even quicker. Today, the pace of the turbos would get you a speeding ticket ashore.
The turbo boats are probably 30-35% faster than the AC-45F. We're routinely going at 35 plus knots, and if you really wanted to send it, then 40's well within your compass.
And some believe teams could be getting close to 50 knots next year. When it comes to controls, the turbos are very different here too. For starters, they've swapped all the ropes bar one for hydraulics. The systems that control them are complex.
The key thing is to make these systems reliable. There's a level of complexity that we just haven't seen before. If you go down in the workshop and you look at the wiring and hydraulic looms for one of these boats, the component count is absolutely massive. That's been the steepest part of the learning curve for me personally, in that you think that just because it floats it must be a boat, but it's not. It's a small aircraft. That's the big step.
But as the clock counts down, the potential gains in performance are even bigger.
From my point of view, the learning curve is still pretty steep. I don't think any of the teams would feel that they're in a period of refinement. We're still turning over big rocks, finding big chunks of performance.
But for all the precision and sophistication, sometimes it's all too easy to trip up.
Capsizing in these boats is an occupational hazard. It's terribly easy to capsize one of these boats. You're walking closer to the edge on a turbo boat than you are on an AC-45.
An edge that is drawing ever closer as the teams push harder. As the Olympics draw closer, World Championships matter more than ever, and some teams seem incapable of thinking anything other than gold. In the 49er, Peter Burling and Blair Tuke continue to dominate the class, winning their 4th consecutive world title. Billy Besson and Mary Rioux have scored 4 in a row too in the NACRA 17, taking every one of the 4 World Championships so far. And Polish sailors Piotr Miska and Małgorzata Bial stamp their authority on the men and women's class at the RSX World Championships. But for some, winning a place to get to the Games has been a battle. Take Caleb Payne's fight with Zach Rayleigh for the USA spot in the Finn class. Selection went down to the wire at the Finn European Championships.
It was Hubie too at this event to then go on and win the Olympic berth. It's something I've dreamed about ever since I was a child, and it's quite emotional to finally be able to say that I've done it.
Imagine 4 days and nights at sea in just a t-shirt and shorts. To many, it's an appealing alternative to the layers of hats, thermals, and foul weather gear that's required for some of the world's classic ocean races. But the reality is that this 600-mile race is no walk in the park. The sea temperature may be warm, but with long nights, big seas, squalls, calms, and seemingly endless sail changes, the Caribbean 600 is a tough offshore race. And that has simply made it more appealing.
Well, it's going to be an amazing start. So we've got 70 boats this year, which is a huge fleet, 750 sailors.
Since the first event 8 years ago, the race has attracted an impressive range of boats and competitors, from professionals to amateurs. The 100-foot Super Maxi, Comanche, is one of the biggest and fastest. But it was a smaller boat, Bellemente, that won last year.
The conditions are always challenging. It's a crew beater race, and we have that much more competition, period.
With so many Grand Prix race boats, the start line was wall-to-wall carbon. For some, like the crews of the Trimarans, Fado and Concise 10, the race was a personal battle.
This race, I'll be honest, it's about beating Fado. That's it. There's nothing else that we're interested in.
The round Barbados race, Team Concise got the better of us on the start. This time I think we've been practicing the start, they've been practicing the start. I think it'll be interesting.
The course starts from Antigua and takes the fleet north to St. Martin, south to Guadeloupe, before a final 120-mile lap to the finish back in Antigua. The big Trimarans, Fado and Concise, got off to a blistering start, racing neck and neck. Comanche and the fleet of carbon rocket ships were close behind, powering through the fleet on the first leg to Barbuda. But while the big guns scorched off into the distance, Andy Schell and his amateur crew aboard Isbjorn were discovering how perfect conditions can still make life hard work at sea.
Anytime on a long passage, I think day 2 is always the toughest day, because you got the adrenaline of day 1 and you're kind of ripping along. Nobody's really sleeping that well, and you get to day 2, and by the afternoon on day 2, the sun was just baking today, and we had that long beat up from Saba. Nobody's sleeping still, and you really get run down and tired.
Although Schell is an experienced skipper with 40,000 miles under his belt, neither he nor his crew had done the event before. As Schell and his team were getting into their stride, Lloyd Thornburg's crew aboard Fado were getting into the champagne. Having smoked around the course at speeds of up to 40 knots, the bright green Trimaran had smashed the course record.
There was not 1 minute where we thought we had it in the bag until we crossed the line, so yeah, that's what this sport's all about, so brilliant.
Back on the racecourse, life was getting even harder aboard Isbjorn.
Down below, it is like being on another planet that's got like 50% more gravity than Earth. You're basically climbing around the cabin, and it's hard to tell here, but I'm kind of sitting at a slant at the nav table. Boat's starting to look like a mess. We've got the big Genoa stuffed in the forepeak with the spinnaker, and the floor is getting a little salty, so we're gonna have to do a cleanup tomorrow because you can't really stand in the galley anymore. Too slippery on the floor.
Meanwhile, after just under 41 hours, Comanche was the first monohull to finish. Skipper Kenny Reid has clocked up over 70,000 miles on around-the-world races. He too had his eye on a new record, but even for him, this was out of reach.
Comanche's built to come in first to finish. Okay. And when we can break records and when Mother Nature cooperates, it's definitely got the pedigree to do that. But to get Mother Nature to cooperate, I haven't figured out how to talk to Mother Nature yet.
But it wasn't just Mother Nature that was causing problems. After 3 days, Shell's race took a big turn for the worse.
We had a leak in the rudder bearing. Paul and I decided, really the decision was made for us that that was the end of our race. There's no way we could have kept pushing the boat as hard as we were. We were just asking for trouble.
Their only consolation was that they were not alone. Last year's winner, Bellimente, was among several other retirements after almost losing her keel.
Clearly, you know, the keel was flapping, basically, so then it was time to pull the sails down.
The door was now wide open for her sparring partner, Proteus, to take the overall win on handicap for the second time.
We got a little bit lucky. We won the day, but at the end of the day, though, it's congratulations to all the teams. But it's a great, great event, and everybody showed that not only we have great teams, great sailors. So I'm very happy.
After the crews had come ashore and the war stories had been shared, no one had mentioned T-shirts and shorts. The Caribbean 600 is fast becoming an offshore racing classic, where the weather is just a big bonus. Coming up after the break, how a Kiwi pair are hell-bent on world domination. And racing around the Arabian Gulf. But first, if a 49er wasn't difficult enough to sail, join us after the break to see a party trick that led to a rewriting of the rules. Welcome back. It's wickedly fast and extremely difficult to sail. When the 49er was first introduced as an Olympic boat, many believed that the design was a step too far and would be impossible to handle in anything other than light winds and flat seas. Today, the world knows different, but some crews took the game to another level. Tower trapezing, as it became known. Placing one of the crew even further outboard is difficult, but provides a huge additional leverage that makes the boat even faster. Aside from health and safety issues, the rule makers started to get concerned that others would follow suit. Shortly afterwards, tower trapezing in the class was banned. Winning and modesty rarely go together. 4 back-to-back World Championship titles and 23 victories at Grade 1 events. Peter Burling and Blair Tuke have been unstoppable in the 49er. For 3 years, they've dominated the class and have every reason to shout about it. Yet they talk like mid-fleet sailors that got lucky.
Today was obviously the last day of the World Champs, and we had 3 races today. Absolutely stoked to go out there and finish it off with a couple of races to spare, and that's always a pretty nice way to do it.
Modest and understated they may be, but they don't fool the experts who rank them alongside the greats of Olympic sailing.
I think they are in the same category as Ben Ainslie, Robert Scheidt, Torben Grail, Paul Elvstrom. I really think they're in that category.
Experienced sailing journalist and former 49er sailor Andy Rice is clearly in no doubt.
The head of New Zealand sailing, as far as the Olympic programme is concerned, is Jez Vanstone. He worked with Ben Ainslie as Ben Ainslie's coach and puts Burling and Tuke in the same category as Ben Ainslie. And possibly you could argue that they're better in the sense that actually pulling a team together and having a duo work together in such close harmony is arguably even harder than sailing a single-hander by yourself.
Identifying their success has been easy. Figuring out how they achieve it has been much harder.
Really, the rest of the fleet is scratching its head. They're not that different, they're just a little bit different, but those little differences add up to a massive difference in terms of the results at the end of the week. They don't have any weaknesses. I mean, they are good out of the start line, they're good in the whole wind range, and in some particular conditions they are the best in the world. I think they have been so dominant that the fleet is spooked by the fact that they can't really get near them. They get more space on the start line, which Ben Ainslie used to get in the Finn. When someone gets that good, you don't want to start next to them because you don't think you're going to beat them.
Winning an Olympic medal requires total commitment and a single-minded focus. Lives have to be put on hold. Yet apparently not for this pair. Both competed in last year's International Moth World Championships. Burling won, while Tuke, who'd never sailed in a Moth World Championship, came 6th overall and won the trophy for the best rookie. On top of that, somehow they've shoehorned an America's Cup programme in too. Sailing for Emirates Team New Zealand, the Kiwis currently lead the America's Cup World Series.
We see it as a massive benefit to both sides. We're really happy with that, but it's definitely be something we're going to be monitoring over the next couple of months, just to make sure we don't do too much and get too tired.
They're not alone in combining Cup and Olympic campaigns. Their former sparring partners, Australians Nathan Outteridge and Ian Jensen, beat the Kiwis to gold in the London Olympics. They too have jobs in the Cup world with Artemis Racing.
Outteridge and Jensen have a problem with Artemis Racing in the sense that that's their day job these days, and they want to win another gold medal, but they're doing that in their own time, and they're having to go and ask favours of Artemis Racing to give them the space and time to do that. Burling and Tuke also have their commitments to Emirates Team New Zealand, and Burling is the guy who's steering their boat, but my impression is that they don't really sit in on the technical meetings. They're just told to just turn up and go racing. I think for Outteridge and Jensen, they are much more senior in the programme for Artemis Racing, and so they have to show up at those meetings.
So, have they peaked too soon?
We've certainly got lots more left in the tank. I mean, we've got a good jump on people right now, but we know we're going to have to keep getting better, and at the same time, if people want to beat us, they're going to need to get up to where we are, and this isn't the level we're sailing at now. It's not what we're going to be in 6 months' time, because we're going to hopefully get better and better.
So if winning and modesty weren't enough to psych out the opposition, the fact that they're having fun too must surely be the killer blow. Sometimes, even the best in the business trip up. Oracle Team USA were out testing aboard one of their America's Cup development boats in Bermuda when a simple jibe went badly wrong. Meanwhile, fresh from their brand new Bermuda base, Artemis Racing have just launched their latest America's Cup development boat and are the first challengers to engage in two-boat testing. Away from the Cup, but still in Cats, the World Match Racing Tour moved to Fremantle, Australia, to stage its first event in the new M32 multi-hull. Unfazed by the switch from one hull to two, it was current and six-time world champion Ian Williams who won yet again.
Williams comes through the line with his team GAC Pindar. He has won the Fremantle Match Racing Championships.
The Arabian Gulf may have a long history of seafaring, but by comparison, yacht racing in the region is new. Now in its 6th year, EFG Sailing Arabia the Tour saw a fleet of 9 identically matched 30-footers engage in a mixture of inshore and offshore races around the Gulf. While the boats are all identical, the teams are very different.
It's going to be the most competitive EFG Sailing Arabia the Tour to date. The women's team is very, very strong this year with Dee Kafari back. EFG are obviously up there in the favourites list, but we've got Al Mouj to look out for this year. They're looking very, very strong too.
Sydney Gavinier has completed the race 5 times and won the event twice. Skippering EFG Bank, he was out to score a hat-trick. The first offshore leg from Dubai to Abu Dhabi remained on the light side.
Approaching the finishing line, leg 1, Team Averda. Mark.
Winning the first offshore race was a boost for the young team. Beating Gavinier was a bonus.
Certainly showing that our intentions are there to put some pressure on Sydney and try and prevent him from winning 3 in a row. So we're here to beat him, and we've made a good start for that.
And he should know. Having been runner-up twice, this was his 5th tour. Dee Kafari has raced around the world 5 times, twice on her own and 3 times with a crew. She was skippering an all-female team aboard Oman Airport's Al Thuraya.
Leg 2 of Sailing Arabia, the tour is from Abu Dhabi to Doha in Qatar, and it's the first of the long legs. It's possibly 2 nights at sea. It's also loads of obstructions along the way, with it being oil fields, islands and marks and buoys. We've got lots of lights to look at and lots to contend with.
On this leg, Gavinier's team scored a win. But Al Mouj, skippered by Gavinier's former navigator Nico Lundven, were close behind.
Leg 3, 267 miles. We're going all the way from Qatar across the Gulf towards Oman. This is where you're going to spend 3 days, 2 nights at sea, and it's going to be a big change to what they're used to.
A long race like this, it's a lot about experience. Unexperienced people, young, crazy people dying to beat everyone else will not sleep until they crash.
Sydney's done quite well, but he doesn't know what's coming around the corner. It's going to be a tough leg, and to be honest, we're going to be quick, and he's got to watch his back.
Tough talk from a young gun. Gavinier's leg 3 win suggested it was, but on leg 4, from Kasab to Sohar, it was all change at the front of the fleet. Al Mouj won the leg, with Herrera in 2nd and Gavinier in 3rd. Not that he was too stressed. His team had a points buffer and was comfortably in the lead overall. On the final leg from Sohar to Muscat, the real battle was to take place between Lundven's Al Mouj and Herrera's Team Averda.
It will be a big fight against Averda, because we are very close. On their 2nd, we are 3rd, and we just have to finish 1 place before them to be 2nd.
While Al Mouj won the leg, it was the master, Sidney Gavinier and his crew, that took the overall win. His hat-trick was in the bag.
I'm so well surrounded, so proud, and this trophy is not going to go away from our hands so quickly, I can tell you.